It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Happy Saturday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Oil Stream. Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola with you, and hey, it is 12:23 on Saturday, and that means it's a weekend lunch, and nothing says weekend lunch like Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. May I suggest the chicken nuggets today, opening soon in West Edmonton Mall. Tommy G, what's up, man?
Not much, Dusty. I could probably use some nugs from Popeye's right about now. Had a nice little soiree after the camp, and
you get into one last night, buddy?
Have my Recover 180, whatever this is.
Ooh,
it's working. Yeah.
That's fancy. This hungover segment brought to you by Recover 180. That's excellent. That's good. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, not a ton to discuss from an Oilers perspective, although there's a couple of things that I certainly want to get to. We'll get to any of your questions. If you're watching right now on the live stream, fire some questions in. We might have time to get to a few of those today. So just as you're watching, you'll see a little thing at the bottom that says, say something, chime in there with a question, and we'll try to get you an answer today as well. Also, if you're watching on Twitter, you can obviously subscribe to it on YouTube if you're a YouTube guy. We've actually been doing some okay numbers on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, tell your friends about it as well. And of course, you can subscribe on all your podcasting platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find The Oil Stream. Well, Tommy, camp's all done. You've generated a next generation of young hockey players, both north and south of the border, and now it's fun time for you, I guess. Quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be a quiet time for the next little while from the Oilers. We got some NHL news to discuss, obviously, as well. But you enjoying a little bit of downtime here, buddy, or what?
Man, this is my vacation, and as is tradition, Oiler fans always buzzing about something. So I'm sure there's going to be a ton of questions about anything and everything and any name that's out there. And that's why we love doing this. And yeah, I enjoyed some downtime. It's been nice, a little bit of recovery, and we'll go from there, Dusty. We'll go from there.
All right, well, let's get into it. It's not listed in our today on the Oil Stream on the side there, but arbitration dates have been set. Yes, Puljujarvi coming up here in just 4 days, and we're going to use this to tie into our Boston Pizza Appetizer. The patio is open, and if you're in Edmonton today or the surrounding area or anyway, you can get to a Boston Pizza. You might want to hit up the patio today. It's absolutely gorgeous out, and of course, they've got Appy Hour daily from 2 until 5, and then again from 9 until close. And the menu, of course, full of absolutely fantastic options at all of your Boston Pizza locations. It is the Boston Pizza Appetizer. And I believe it was Daniel Nugent-Bowman who had it in one of his articles, Tommy, that the NHLPA wanted the Jesse Puljujarvi case to be one of the first ones to be decided to kind of set the tone for the rest of the arbitration cases. So I guess they think that's one that's going to go in their favor and can kind of set the market a little bit. But what do you make of Jesse Puljujarvi being near the beginning of these arbitration dates for a reason as opposed to just randomly being placed there?
Interesting. I mean, I don't know what his argument will be. I think, as a 36-point guy, 15, 16 goals, like he'll get respectable money, especially being in the league for a few years. But that's an interesting one because, Dusty, like if he's the guy that's setting the tone, I don't think they have a great case to make big bucks. So it might be a modest, like middle of the pack type of deal to kind of put the barometer out there. So that's my assessment of that. But interesting that they chose to put him up front.
What would you describe as big bucks for Jesse Puljujarvi? I'm just curious. What do you think is a reasonable number? What would you think would be big bucks that might kind of skew things the rest of the way for arbitration?
Yeah, I think now somewhere around 3 million is probably most logical. And then anything north of that, if he goes 3.5 or they award him 4, like that would be ridiculous. So I'm assuming he comes in around 3 somewhere, maybe just north of 3 million.
I'm very fascinated to see especially if Yamamoto gets to arbitration as well. I'm fascinated to see. It was the Cult of Hockey guys who had a pretty good article on it this week. Just go search Staples or McCurdy's Twitter. They had it over there, and they laid out, the cases that Yamamoto and Jesse Puljujarvi would be making, and it's like they're both first-round picks. They're 5 months apart in age. They were both right around 0.5 points per game this past year. It's fascinating to me how close these numbers. They both made the same amount this year, Tommy. Like, it's fascinating to me where the differences will be, because you can't sit down in arbitration and go, well, our captain likes playing with this guy more than he likes playing with this guy. Like, that doesn't factor in here. They basically just look at the numbers. Yeah. And I was talking with Hart from Puckpedia, kind of figuring out what the arbitrator usually weighs into these conversations, and he said it's usually heavily leaned towards the previous season, with a little bit of a factor of what they've done at other times in their career. Yeah. But with that being said, I mean, Yamamoto and Puljujarvi, even other times in their career, they've had very similar numbers. So I don't know. I mean, does it come in at the exact same number? Could it be a situation where Puljujarvi comes in more than Yamamoto? Like, I don't know how this is going to sort itself out.
Dusty, like the fact that they're first rounders, you could throw that argument out the window. That's 5-6 years ago for both of those guys. So chuck that out automatically. You can chuck out any analytics, expected goals for per 60, line mate stuff, throw that right out. Where I think Yamamoto has an advantage is the fact that he did get to 20 goals. He did get to 40 points. Those are plateaus. They're pretty simple ones. And they're two that Puljujarvi did not attain. And I think that will put him above what Jesse Puljujarvi gets. So 20 goals, 40 points. Those are plateaus.
How much more do you think? Like, one guy. Because points per game isn't an analytic. Like, that's just points per game, right?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the expected points for
did better in that, right?
Yeah.
So that evens it out. The other thing that I don't even know if, I mean, it's a pretty basic stat. If we're looking at pretty basic stats, I just want to bring this up again too, because I wonder how much this will be discussed. Kyler Yamamoto was -1, and Jesse Puljujarvi was +22, which is a huge swing there as well. And if you're just looking at numbers, not as opposed to who he did it with and things like that. Gager brought this up on Two Guys in a Goal there. I'd love to see these arbitration cases televised, like Judge Judy, where both sides just lay it out. Would that not be, in Canadian markets especially, it'd be huge.
Well, do you remember back in the day when the players used to be in the arbitration cases and they would be like, oh my God, that was the worst experience ever. I didn't know they felt that way about me. It was like this total just strip down of these guys. And they just come out of there being like, oh, I don't even know how to feel about my organization that just awarded me a bunch of millions of dollars, because they would just get absolutely scrutinized to the nth degree. So I think times have changed a little bit, though.
So if they do both go to arbitration with those dates now set, and Puljujarvi on the 27th, Yamamoto in August, you would think Yamamoto comes in a little bit higher?
Yes, that's how I assume things will play out. And only maybe by a couple 100,000. That's my guess. Like, I'm guesstimating here, but just because he achieved those plateaus, he finished the season stronger than Jesse Puljujarvi did. If they're looking at the cases that the team will make towards those guys. And again, I'll reiterate this. It's funny because when one of those guys is going, the other one's tanking. And they've never been going at the same time. Have you noticed that over the last few years? It's just always been the case, which is too bad.
Yeah, it's funny because when one of them's going, he usually gets to slide up into the top 6 and the other guy comes out of the top 6. Right. I would like to go back and look at how many times they were both locked into the top 6 at the same time, right? Like Yamo with Draisaitl, Puljujarvi with McDavid, because it always seemed like Nuge would slide in and Puljujarvi would come down. Or I don't have the numbers. I was just, it'd be interesting to see how that split was for those two guys as well. So I'm going to go out and just say they come in at the exact same number. I think the arbitrator is going to be like, boom, both of you guys. And if it isn't, it's like maybe 3 and 2.8 or 3.1 and 3 or 2.9, which is essentially the same number anyway. So they'll have some work to do after that. But your Boston Pizza Appetizer arbitration date set for both Jesse Puljujarvi and Kyler Yamamoto. And once again, the patio is open at Boston Pizza. The locations are hiring as well. So if you're watching the oil stream instead of working and you want to get a gig, swing on by your local Boston Pizza. And when I was in there a couple of days ago, remember we had that episode I went for dinner before, and our server was brand new, young girl, and she comes over, she goes, hi, my name is, I can't remember, and she goes, I'm in training. And I looked at her, I said, oh, so you were expecting to suck tonight? And she goes, no, I just wanted to give you guys the heads up. I was just like, okay, we all had a pretty good chunk, because she actually ended up doing a really good job for somebody who's in training. So yeah, but if you're looking for a gig, Boston Pizza can hook you up, and make sure you check out, especially here on the weekend, if you want to go hit up a happy hour from 2 to 5 and then 9 to close, you can do that as well. All right, let's get to the biggest news in the National Hockey League here, Tommy. And that was late last night. I'm calling the the Elks game, and I get an email from the Florida Panthers media with their release. And I look and I'm like, Matthew Tkachuk acquired by Florida Panthers. What the hell? So I think it was in after the third quarter in the break is when I saw it. And I have to be honest, I was not expecting that type of return. And there's different ways we can break this down. But your thoughts when you originally saw that deal?
I was on the way back from, I think, the lake, and I was just like, whoa, 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 wow. Florida gets in there, and Huberdeau going back the other way. Immediately, I thought that Calgary did a pretty good job getting a couple of players, Weegar and Huberdeau. And everyone's like, yeah, but they need to re-sign them. And one guy tweeted a picture of Forrest Gump running away after 1 year, which I thought was hilarious.
That's a great gif, man. I use it all the time.
It is. But I think that them, landing Weegar and Huberdeau, I think they're probably trying to find a way to keep those guys around for more than one season, although I'm sure we'll see what happens and if there's more drama with the Flames. But I thought the haul was pretty good for Calgary. I legitimately think that that'll keep them very competitive next season. They get two pieces. I know they lost 3 in the last week and a bit with Gaudreau and Branson leaving and then them trading away Tkachuk. But I really like that trade for the Flames. We'll see what happens in the future. And then Florida is an interesting team, Dusty. Like they've made a lot of moves. They had an amazing season last year. I'm assuming they're going to have a very strong season again next year. But I don't know if there's too much movement with the Panthers. A couple of coaching disruptions. Yeah, last season, obviously one of them not by choice. They're going to be an interesting case and an interesting team to watch this upcoming season. Those Florida Panthers are, and we'll see how Matthew Tkachuk fits in there. But I really do think the Flames will be good with Huberdeau and Weegar. And I think the Battle of Alberta, I'm legit when I say I think it's going to be pretty damn good again this season. I don't know if it's going to be the same. I think, a little bit of an evolution here. But I think the Flames, with all due respect, did pretty good considering the circumstances.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I thought, holy smokes, I can't believe they got back Huberdeau and Weegar and the lottery protected first and a prospect as well. But so I like what they did. They're still playing with fire a little bit, right? If both these guys walk, then you're in trouble. And I know people say, well, you could trade them at the deadline, but what if the Flames are battling with the Oilers for first in the Pacific? They're just going to bail on Jonathan Huberdeau prior to the deadline. They didn't do it with Johnny Gaudreau this year. So I think there's a spot. I like the move for this upcoming year for Calgary. I think they will be very competitive again this year. Their blue line's better. Mackenzie Weegar is a significant upgrade on Goodbranson, so their blue line's better. They're obviously going to be missing Johnny Gaudreau, but you're bringing a 100-point guy in Huberdeau, and maybe you find some of what Tkachuk can bring somewhere else. But I think they could be finding themselves in a similar situation next year where they're at the deadline. They don't want to move Huberdeau because they think they might be able to take a run at it because they're a really good team again. And then you get to the offseason and Huberdeau walks. So you kind of kicked it down the year here, which is good for them. I wasn't sure they'd be viewed as a legitimate contender in the West again. I think now they probably are. And on Florida's side of it, to be honest, I know some people are like, Florida gave up way too much. I don't mind it from Florida's side. Florida has gone into the playoffs as a juggernaut multiple years now and has not been able to win with that group. Now, I'm not putting it on Huberdeau, but they obviously, and I think it's been justified by the way they've gone out in the playoffs, especially this year, they needed a different look among their core group, and that's what they've gone out and done here. And you also have a sure thing. You've got Tkachuk locked up. When you look at it this way, you get him locked up on the pre-trade sign with Calgary for 8 years. So you've got a 24-year-old Matthew Tkachuk locked up for 8 years. Calgary's got some really good players, but they're question marks. So I think Florida, I don't mind the strategy of Florida here either, especially if they didn't think they were going to be able to keep Huberdeau around. So
Good trade.
Big. Yeah. If Calgary can salvage at least one of those guys and get something out of the other one, if it becomes a situation where he might end up leaving, then they might be okay here as well. But I love blockbusters, buddy. This was a blockbuster. So what it does is it brings us to the question here, man. Who is the biggest competition in the division for the Oilers next year? Is it still Calgary or is it somebody else?
I think it is Calgary. I mean, Vegas should be up there. I don't know what's going on with the Golden Knights. I mean, they made some moves. They you know what? I do know what is going on with the Golden Knights. They were way too aggressive, and they were their own worst enemy,
Yeah,
and they had to
killed
move so
themselves.
many big pieces. They got rid of the wrong goalie. Now they're stuck with Robin Leonard. You don't know what his health is going to be like. Obviously, the end of the season didn't end well for him, and he was injured and all of that. He's a big boy. His body's breaking down. He's getting a little bit older. So that's a tough situation. They might be down to their third stringer to start the season. That's how messed up it is with their goalies right now. So the Golden Knights, who knows? They have some excellent players, but I think it is going to be Edmonton and Calgary. And then my sneaky kind of team that's going to come up a little bit and be pesky again is the LA Kings. I think that they have a good thing going.
Yep.
Yeah, there is a team that's going to have a good look at a top 3 spot in the division again this year. San Jose, again, lots of retooling going on there. Anaheim, I don't know what the heck they're doing. They seem to be just spinning their tires. And Vancouver might kind of be in the mix a little bit, but not quite there.
I think the Los Angeles Kings could very well be the biggest issue in the division. Nothing against Calgary. Mm-hmm. I think they've done some really good work here for this upcoming year with Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar. But I don't know if I would have given him 7.8 on like a max contract for Kevin Fiala. But what did we say last year in the playoffs? I mean, especially if we're just talking playoffs against the Oilers, they need offense from the wings. They've got great things going down the middle with Kopitar and Philip Deneau. They didn't have Victor Arvidsson in that playoff series against the Oilers. So you throw him back into the mix. You add Kevin Fiala. You get Drew Doughty back on the blue line as well. And, a bunch of those younger guys. And that was a pretty young team, buddy. Those guys take a step in the right direction as well. I would not in any way be surprised if the Los Angeles Kings are a real team to be bothered by in the Pacific next year. Good for them.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Kempe is really good too.
He's a guy who still could get a little bit better too. Like he's a good player. Yeah. No, he's good. Just taking a look here on the live stream. Canucks, Vegas, Kings, Oilers in as a wild card. My goodness, that seems a little crazy. That's in from. Wait a second. Who's it from? Tanya Ha 912-33228. So
it's a very specific username.
Can bots comment a legitimate comment on a live stream? Is that what's just happening here?
Dude, AI is taking over the world already. We just don't know it.
That's a really good point. You're right. That's true.
Take right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna save the Foegele haters again for another episode. I'm gonna do that every episode all summer. It's just always gonna be on there, and I'm just gonna bum it. You know what? No time for the Foegele haters today, but we'll get to it in another episode. Shout out to the ESPYs for getting it right. Connor McDavid, the best player in the National Hockey League. Tommy.
Oh my God, dude! Good for the ESPYs getting it right. Now they're paying attention to hockey, and they nailed it.
Unlike it's finally made a difference.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Listen, I know we cover the team. I know we talk about it every single day because it's our job and we love doing so. But Connor McDavid is the best player in the league. He was the best player in the league last season. He was the MVP of the NHL. He's the face of the NHL. Austin Matthews had a great year, but I'm sorry, that was bad. He did not deserve the Hart Trophy. He did not deserve the Ted Lindsay. ESPYs, well done. A hat tip to you, our cousins over at ESPN. They got it right. PHWA, no bueno.
That's going to do it for another episode of the Oil Stream. Tommy, I guess we'll talk to you in another location next week as the summer of Gazzola continues.
Buddy, I'm going to be in Vegas when we talk next week. So I'll be.
I love a good Tommy Vegas episode.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good.
That's always the best. And like I said, we'll get to that Foegele hater stuff on the next episode of the Oil Stream. If anything breaks, watch for At Minimum and Oil Stream in 5. We'll bang that out and maybe get together for a full episode as well. Tommy, thanks for joining us here on a Saturday, buddy. And as always, the Oil Stream brought to you by Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. Maybe you want to take the lady out for a special evening tonight. Why not go to Popeyes and get one chicken sandwich and eat it Lady in the Tramp style, right? You could do that.
The way you come up with these is brilliant and amazing and cheesy, all wrapped up into a neat little package. So keep it going, buddy. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And remember to hit that thumbs up for the algorithm.
Talk to everybody next week.